Traditionally, the month of August in Washington tends to be slow, quiet, almost uneventful. News cycles cool down, politicians disappear, and headlines fade into the background. But let me ask you something, what happens when tradition gets completely flipped on its head? What happens when, instead of silence, we get chaos, contradictions, and a political storyline that feels more like a scripted drama than reality? Because that's exactly where we are right now. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this.
President Trump's $1.8 billion fund is dead.
Now picture this. You wake up, scroll through the news, and suddenly, boom, something that looked completely stable just days ago is now being declared dead. And not just quietly dead, dramatically dead. The kind of moment that makes you go, wait, didn't I just see this last week? Because that's the feeling many people had. Everything seemed intact, sure, controversial, maybe even deeply flawed, but gone. That fast. It leaves you wondering what changed behind the scenes.
But his nomination of AG Todd Blanche is still very much alive.
And in the middle of all that confusion, there's one question that naturally rises to the surface. How did this situation suddenly come back to life? What shifted? Who made the call? And more importantly, why now? Because in politics, timing is never random. There's always a reason, even if it's hidden beneath layers of strategy and optics.
Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, two Republican holdouts, back on board with Blanche. That agreement coming after Blanche formally rescinded the so-called anti-weaponization fund and clarified additional language that would have shielded Trump and his family from further IRS audits.
At first glance, it almost looked like a moment of principle. A rare moment where certain Republican figures appeared to take a firm stand. A moment that made people think, okay, maybe this time is different. You had strong words, firm resistance, and what looked like genuine pushback. And for a brief second, it felt like something meaningful was happening on Capitol Hill.
Right now, this deal still allows for the Department of Justice to compensate January 6 rioters and others of the political allies of the president who have alleged in some form or fashion that the Justice Department was weaponized against them. Nothing in this prevents that.
But then, everything flipped. Suddenly, the same voices that were praised for standing firm seemed to reverse course. The same individuals who had drawn a line in the sand appeared to step right over it. And that raises a bigger question. Was that initial resistance real, or was it just part of a larger performance? Because think about it. What's the point of making a dramatic stand, only to back down moments later? What's the strategy there? Is it about optics? Is it about buying time? Or is it simply about appearing strong without actually following through?
I think Todd Blanche did what we asked him to do. It binds not only him, but also the Department of Justice as a whole. And so I think that satisfies my demands. We basically got a stake driven through the heart of the weaponization fund. That was $1.8 billion.
And here's where things get even more interesting. When explanations start coming in, they often sound convincing on the surface. Words like progress, agreement, and resolution get thrown around. But if you look closely, you start to notice something missing, real substance. Because sometimes what's presented as a major victory is actually just a minor adjustment dressed up as a breakthrough. Mr. Corden, speaking to reporters on Monday, pushed back saying, quote, "There's literally nothing we could do other than have the president change the settlement agreement to make them legally binding." And Tillis added, "Now, could the president completely reverse this and create a new fund?" He said he could, and then he can answer to the American people. So now we are left with a deeper, more uncomfortable question. If key figures themselves have acknowledged limitations in what was agreed upon, then why move forward anyway? Why approve something when you already believe it may lead to the very problems you claim to oppose? And this is where the conversation shifts directly to Donald Trump. Because whether you support him or not, one thing is undeniable: he remains at the center of it all. His influence, his priorities, and his long-standing positions continue to shape decisions in real time. And that raises another critical question: has anything actually changed?
But even as he offered these assurances, President Trump, just hours before he put that out, was still insisting that those who attacked the Capitol deserve to be compensated with taxpayer money, saying, quote, "This would be a reimbursement for pain that they suffered. A lot of people like it."
Because if you listen closely to the messaging, there's often a pattern. Phrases like, a lot of people are saying, get used to create the impression of widespread support. But how many people is a lot? And who exactly are they? It's a rhetorical strategy that sounds powerful, but when you break it down, it can feel surprisingly vague.
Did you sign off on Todd Blanche rescinding?
I didn't look at it. All I know is that Todd Blanche is great. He's going to do a great job. Everybody knows it. And I understand there's been a sign-off, but I don't know what they agreed.
And then there's the issue of consistency. One moment, something is denied. The next, it's acknowledged. Then it's denied again. It creates a cycle of confusion that makes it difficult to pin down what's actually true. And in that uncertainty, narratives can shift quickly, sometimes without clear accountability.
Again, the hope is that this kind of puts the death knell in the weaponization fund once and for all.
But here's the thing that really keeps people watching. The idea that there will be a final resolution, a moment where everything is settled once and for all. The reality. That moment rarely comes. Because in this world, there's always another angle, another argument, another push to revisit what was supposedly decided.
And I was disappointed with Jeanine Pirro, really disappointed with Jeanine Pirro. She folded like an umbrella. We have photographs or tapes, like moving cameras, right? We have them where people are on the side cutting it with a box knife.
And just when you think you've seen it all, something new enters the picture. New developments. New claims. Even new evidence being hinted at. And suddenly, what once seemed questionable starts to gain traction again, not necessarily because it's proven, but because the conversation itself keeps evolving. Which brings us back to the bigger picture. What we are witnessing isn't just a single political decision, it's a pattern. A cycle of resistance, reversal, and reframing. And right now, there may be no clearer example of that than what's happening with Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis. Just days ago, they positioned themselves as firm opponents, setting strict conditions and refusing to budge. They created an image of independence, of standing up, even when it wasn't easy. But today, that image looks very different. Because after all the strong words, after all the public resistance, the final outcome appears to be approval. And not based on a major shift in policy, but on something far less substantial. A document. A promise. A framework that doesn't necessarily eliminate the very concerns they raised. So again, we have to ask, why go through all that? Why create the appearance of a battle if the result was always going to be the same? Was it about sending a message? Was it about public perception? Or was it simply about delaying the inevitable? And here's the part that really sticks with people. If they had just gone along quietly from the beginning, most people wouldn't have even noticed. But by making it a spectacle, by turning it into a moment, they've now drawn attention to the contradiction itself. And that contradiction is what keeps this story alive. Because beyond the politics, beyond the personalities, what people are really reacting to is the pattern. The idea that even when there's clear concern, clear opposition, and clear acknowledgement of risk, the final decision still ends up reinforcing the same direction. And that's where the real tension lies. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think this was a genuine attempt to push back, or just political theatre? Was there ever a real chance of a different outcome, or was this always how it was going to end? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.